I mean, yeah, but if we don't talk about it and it's not there to acknowledge,
when we try
then we're going to pretend like it never happened.
When we try to talk about it, y'all act like it never happened. Or even in like books in Texas, they try to make it seem like slavery wasn't that bad. Like we came over here with our own choice to say, hey, we want to work for free. We want the fake American dream for free. You seen it? You seen how they try to change the thing to make it seem like slavery wasn't that bad?
Yeah, but a lot of people don't realize there was white slaves too.
Called indentured servants. That
there was also Chinese slaves.
Called indentured. A lot of people. What you want to say is, a lot of people. We was the only people that stayed slaves for 300 years. When y'all like indentured servants, y'all came over here to work, and after a certain amount of years, you got your freedom and was able to buy land. Am I right? Am I wrong?
There were still Chinese slaves in the 1900s.
So are we comparing 400 years of slavery? See, that's the problem with everything. Everybody like to say, what about this? Why don't we talk? You say you want to talk about black slaves. Let's talk about black slaves. But you want to talk about it's white slaves. Oh, it's Chinese slaves.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's everybody like slavery. It wasn't just blacks. It wasn't just whites. That's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't even actually know that there was actually Chinese slaves, to be honest.
I knew everybody is slaves, but the difference between all of them is like they have a land to go back to. Our land was like pretty much the whole problem that I could say about slavery. We could all fucking forget slavery if you fucking could admit that we're Americans. The problem is a lot of people be like, get your monkey ass back over there. And I'm like, bro, I'm American. I don't know Africa at all. I don't know anybody.
Unless you were Native American, nobody in this fucking country's family is technically American. So anybody who says that can eat a dick.
Well, that's
they can eat a bag of dicks.
That could come from a lot of.
Oh, I know people say it. I fucking heard it. And I'm just like, y'all are retarded. Like, you don't realize that, like, in the sad part is most people have actually, their families didn't even come here until the 1900s, and a lot of families only came in the 1900s.
Like I was saying about Donald Sterling, I had looked it up, and then I found some facts about how, remember how I was saying 1994? I was way wrong. It was 2003 where he got sued by 18 tenants for pretty much saying black people smell and attract with vermin. Mexicans just sit around and smoke and drink all day. And then Sterling also added that he intended to rent to Korean tenants because they pay rent and live in whatever conditions I give to them. That right there, he had to pay $4.9 million. And then in 2006, again he got sued by the Housing Discrimination for losing race as a factor for filling some of his apartment buildings. The suit said that Sterling refused to rent to non-Koreans in Korean neighborhoods, and he pretty much refused to rent out to African Americans in Beverly Hills. And from this lawsuit, he got sued for $2.7 million.
I wonder if your insurance would cover stupidity like that. That's my question.
I mean, my question is like, yes, it's wrong in his case, but how many times had he done this and like his friends just like, oh, that's okay? Because a lot of shitty people have shitty ass friends, let's be honest.
I mean, he said he's a billionaire, right?
Yes.
I mean, most of his friends probably don't give a shit what he does because he probably hooks them up with stuff. Let's be realistic here.
I mean, like I said, to me it's just 100% stupid. Like, due to what he's done, and then when he got caught cheating on his wife and pretty much making another racist slur, he lost his NBA team, the LA Clippers. So he had like all the NBA teams forced him to sell his team.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, like until we have the conversation, like I know it's not the conversation that you should be had because it's not really your fault. But a lot of people like you should start having this conversation to like you want to better our relationship. Where when we try to talk about it, people don't want to talk about it. They want to bring up 500 other things. And when we try to like, all right, we gonna talk about the 500 other things, then people like, well, you don't talk about this. And it's like, where's the goalpost? You keep moving the goalpost. You want to talk about this or you want to talk about that?
Oh, we got to talk about all of it. That's the thing. And it can't just be about one thing.
But when we start trying to talk about one thing at first, because like I said, to learn about the past, you got to go from the past. Like, I learned about indentured servants first. Like, first indentured servants. First, let's be honest. First thing that happened was they tried to make the Native Americans work. What happened? The Americans knew the land, so they ran away. Second, they decided, first off, America was really for criminals because Spain, for instance, was overcrowded and the Black Plague was happening. So they figured we're going to send all the criminals to the new country to live and vote. I mean, like, live and work. And pretty much the first things was indentured servants. Indentured servants worked for a slave master for a certain amount of years and then became free.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that happened was, yeah, a lot of people want to come over there to be indentured servants, but you can't get, like, after a while, it's like, it's not enough to indentured servants. So what did you do next? You went to Africa. And Africa didn't know. The worst part about this, Africa didn't know they was selling their people to slavery. Like, they thought slavery was like the slavery they did. Where it's like, oh yeah, you pretty much indentured servant. You let people live, work, make a living. Pretty much like most of their slaves was like from war, and pretty much captured warriors from other tribes. So what they used to do is make them work and stuff, and then after a while release them. Well, it turned out that you knew how slavery turned out for us. We pretty much got robbed from our country and brought here, and pretty much had to be mated, worked to death, broken. A lot of different stuff than what the regular slaves had to deal with. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I could talk about all the other slaves before, but when I talk about our slavery, how bad it was, then you're going to bring up, or not you, I'm not going to say you because at least you having this conversation. Then somebody else would bring up, well, you know, Chinese have slaves. What did Chinese slaves have to do with me right now? I was talking about black slave experience in America, and you brought up Chinese slaves. Okay, so let me talk about Chinese slaves. See, that's why Chinese slaves was this. I'm like, so we keep moving the goalposts. You want to talk about Chinese slaves, but then you say you want to talk about our past. You want to try to talk about our past for black people why we so pissed off and everything going wrong. Well, you could be okay. You just forget about the past. Make up your mind what y'all want to do.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of people still today blame a lot of the stuff to that.
And I mean, it is. I mean, you got to think about it. We pretty much became free in pretty much 1900. And even 1900, let's say if we had a clean slate from then. Because what was our agreement for slaves who fought for the country and everything? What was the agreement?
Well, they should become free.
No.
Well, it depends on which side you were on, too.
What was the agreement?
For which side?
I mean, the Democrats. What was the agreement for the place to say, hey, you want...
do know Democrats were for slavery, right?
The Republicans, whatever side.
Okay, I was just telling you that because...
What side was supposed to get the 40 acres in the mule for us to be free?
I mean, my guess would be the Republicans, because the Republicans were actually the ones that wanted to get rid of slavery, not Democrats.
Did you know every other ethnicity that you would bring up about slavery and capturing got a reparation for their slavery? From the Japans, China, Mexicans, all the Native Americans, every other ethnicity they got was dealing with slavery in America got reparations, but we never did. So you keep saying, all right, most people came in 1900s. In the 1900s, they was able to buy land wherever they want. They was able to move to the West Coast in front of the gold rush. They was able to own land. You know, a lot of black people couldn't own land till like not even 1960s, almost 1980s. And when we try to own land, they say we can't own land in this area. We had to own land in another area,
and that's where steal it.
And that's when Red Line happened. And let's not forget that a lot of people in the South, we didn't have good jobs, and the economy wasn't booming like it was. So a lot of people worked as crop shares. You know what that means?
No, where they had to work on a farm, or they like technically were.
They were still pretty much slaves.
Yeah,
they sold their crops to the people, and instead of getting paid all their money, 90% of the money had to go to the person who owned the land still. So even then, when we try to do our own stuff, hey, let's try to do this. Oh no, you got to pay this. So we came in. Every time you keep saying, hey, 1900, these people, they was able to buy whatever house they want, go to wherever school they want. Because let's think about it, we couldn't go to regular college. We had to go to historical black colleges because the premier white college wouldn't allow us.
Yeah.
I mean, and also let's think about this. Have you ever heard of Black Wall Street?
Yeah.
So when we even trying to do successful, where all doctors and everything. They're trying to be successful and live together. What did the government of America decide to do?
They burned it down.
Thank you. So and also, have you heard about what happened in Baltimore?
What?
Where Baltimore literally, they dropped bombs in a black neighborhood to kill people.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's just like, we were talking about, all on the subject of taking land and stuff like that. It's like the one episode I was telling you about, Hilton Head Island was actually all owned by black people, and the government just came in and took it away, even though it was their farmland and everything like that. And nobody really talks about it. They just pretend like it never happened. I mean, it's just like, even today, in modern days, we're still doing it. We're still doing it to everyone. We're doing it to Native Americans, black people, white people. But, why does the government have the right to take your land from you? They don't. They shouldn't. I guess technically they do, but they should not have the right to come take our land from us unless it's for some, financial reason. But even then, I feel like it's not their right to do it.
It's not right to do a lot of stuff. But, let's look at, that's why I keep saying, even when we were so set up for, until the 1980s, we wasn't, afforded the same stuff that, other people was afforded. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why when you keep saying, why don't you just forget about the past and just look at what y'all have now? It's like, we were set up since 19. What you pretty much saying was, all right, you're going to start a race. I'm going to give you 400 plus years. Not even you. Okay, let's say even some people. We're going to give you 100 years head start. And then this person, all right, after 100 years, you can run. So now it's no land for us to really buy. It's not like my parents never owned land like that. The land they try to buy, my parents was not that, I could say, not that smart. So, my dad had land. But then, of course, what do most people do? Oh, this company try to sell him, buy his land. Instead of him fighting and keep it, he needs the money because he's raising 2 boys. Yes, he's working at a decent job, but still raising 2 boys. And you got to remember, back in the day, there's so many things I could talk about how our black community was set up to fail. Do you know how black people was able to get welfare?
Well, because they're black? Well, I'm being serious. I'm just asking.
No, black people, the only way if you was getting welfare, if you was black, is if a black man was not, if only a female was in the house raising a kid. So what do that mean?
What, basically people need to have children?
No, that pretty much meant was, pretty much, let's say I have a kid with a black girl. The only way she could get welfare was if I moved out the house and it showed that no man stayed in this house.
That's crazy.
I could show, it's literally documented, but everybody keeps saying, well, I came in 1900, and this not really. Even when people say, well, can you really show your bloodline to show you back from slavery? I
show your bloodline that what?
Let's say, did your bloodline really come from slaves? I'm first off, my parents all came from, literally, my dad had an old photo of his grandpa pretty much working in the field.
So, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No, literally, working in the field, with that's how I know about the cash crop thing, about working in the field, and then 90% of his money had it, he owned some land, and then 90% of his money had to go to the, well, he didn't own the land, he worked for the land, because it was pretty much like slavery. It was pretty much hey, you'd have nowhere to go, because pretty much the lie that they told us was hey, all this stuff going to happen for us if we fight for y'all. We start fighting for the Republicans, nothing happened for us. Of course, we didn't get our 40 acres and a mule, because that was the agreement. If y'all leave y'all slavery states and come fight for the North, we're going to give you 40 acres and a mule after the war. Wasn't that what they would say it?
I don't know. I don't remember that, but it could be. I would honestly believe it. We gave away all the free land to begin with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Every time, that's why I said you not the person I want to attack. It's other people because you actually understand half the stuff I'm saying.
And you actually know a lot of history. That specific thing you were just stating, I really don't recall. But I know we were giving away 40-acre parcels